With over 330,891 cases of coronavirus in the United States, many Americans are just now feeling the impact of the global pandemic as it hits their own towns and cities. Closing restaurants, shutting down parks and beaches, and leaving virtually every public space empty. I'm Lily Umana, and this is Citrus TV's weekly coronavirus update. Many Syracuse University students left campus when spring break began on Saturday, March 14th. On that Tuesday, Vice Chancellor Michael Haney announced that students would do a week of online classes after spring break.
We will suspend residential instruction at Syracuse University effective the end of the academic day on Friday.
Just under a week later, coronavirus became an official global pandemic. On March 16th, Syracuse University said they were moving all classes online and urging students to leave campus.
Our global campuses are closed. Our classrooms, our labs, our libraries, our dining halls, our athletic venues, and our performance spaces are empty. Our health and safety is threatened by a global pandemic. We know we will prevail, but at this time we do not know how long the pandemic will last.
Syracuse has 137 cases and Onondaga County has 377 new cases with 5 deaths. County Executive Ryan McMahon says they are using Syracuse Police Department and SU's Department of Public Safety to enforce social distancing in hopes to flatten the curve in Syracuse.
Many of these new cases, as the health department has started their investigation, they're seeing some trends that these are more not 20 or 30 people hanging out, but maybe 5 to 10 people in a gathering, and that's really something that needs to be taken seriously. We have to get to a spot where this curve flattens. How we do that is social distance.
But across New York, cases are skyrocketing. The latest figures from the Center for Disease Control are above 100,000, and the death toll is rising past 4,000, the highest rates across the nation. Syracuse University senior Sunny Balkin lives in Long Island, New York. She was in New York City just before the pandemic spiked.
I'm currently at my house in Long Island. Sadly, similar to Syracuse University, Newhouse NYC has shut down the Fisher Center. So all my classes have been online, which has just been so much fun.
Most of the Newhouse NYC classes are field trip based. Sunny says the switch to online hasn't hurt the quality of her education, but it's been hard to focus at home.
I think many students are going through this kind of weird period where they're trying to focus on their work, but their parents are screaming in the background, and that's not something that they've had to deal with in 3 or 4 years. But other than that, it wasn't too bad.
Balkin says most of her stuff is still in New York City. Many NYC students believe they will be coming back in just a few days.
We left one day, kind of figuring we'd be back, on Monday or after spring break to gather our things, and then pretty much Cuomo was like, you know what, why don't you guys just stay home, shelter in place.
Sunny's worried about her family's health right now, especially since one relative is high risk.
My mom has a suppressed immune system. We're all stressed, but we're also not leaving our houses, which is what people should be doing anyway, so that's good.
Before Sunny left New York City for Long Island, she could feel how the spread of COVID-19 was affecting the mood of the entire city.
It was tense. You could tell that people were nervous. People weren't holding on to any of the guardrails on the subways. We were a bunch of jelly beans chucked into a can, shaking around because nobody wanted to sit and nobody wanted to touch anything.
New York City alone has over 60,000 confirmed cases. New York doesn't have enough personal protective equipment for medical staff or ventilators for patients. Governor Cuomo says he's shifting supplies across the state to address crisis points. However, Governor Cuomo is receiving praise for his matter-of-fact manner in daily press conferences and the actions he's taken to reduce further spread. New Yorkers are being asked to stay at home unless they are essential employees, and Cuomo is asking them to wear face masks out in public. Balkin says she believes New York is leading the charge against the pandemic.
I think that out of all the states, we've been the most active and trying to get tests out there. Within a week of me being home, there was a testing facility open, I believe 5 miles from my house at a university called Stony Brook. And I feel like the rest of the country was kind of still in this bubble of, it's not really affecting us yet. We don't really worry. Rural areas weren't freaking out about it as much, but I feel like New York was definitely all encompassing. We really wanted to get our jazz together. We do not want this to spread.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy joined New York and Connecticut in issuing a stay-at-home order across the state on March 21st.
This morning, I signed an executive order directing nearly all of our 9 million residents to quite simply stay at home.
Yet the state is still in second place behind New York with nearly 37,000 cases and over 900 deaths. Many of the state's residents commute into New York City for work. Syracuse University senior Allegra Carver was interning at the Seth Meyers Show before her semester was cut short.
And then I got canceled on the Thursday. And I was like, well, I'm alone in this apartment. I don't have my cat. There is no one else. I can't talk to anyone in the building. Like, there's no purpose for me here anymore. So I was like, I'm just going to hop in a J Transit and come home.
While Carver made it home safely to New Jersey, many of her belongings remain in her New York City apartment. Getting them back would mean breaking her state stay-at-home order.
Like, that's the other problem, right? So like, I am not supposed to leave my house. Yet I have to go back to the biggest city in the country, get my stuff, and come back here, which is really, really bad. So I don't know how we're going to do that.
Despite this personal setback, she appreciates the decisive action taken by the governors of the tri-state area.
They're really, really strict about stuff. Like, they don't let us out past 8 p.m., or they say we shouldn't go out between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. 6 feet thing. All non-essential businesses are closed. Like, it's shut down. In New Jersey, there's millions of people everywhere, and the streets are silent.
Carver says the sudden end of her internship, her semester, and the postponement of commencement has left her feeling isolated from her campus community.
Like, you're shut out of your own house. That's what it feels like. And you can't get in. None of your keys work. You can't break in through a window. Like, you're just shut out.
She says that while she can't control what happens with COVID-19, she can control keeping in contact with her friends and being a support system for them.
I think it's normally good to check in on people and just say like hi, but I think now more than ever, like, people, you just need to make sure that everyone's doing all right.
And in Pennsylvania, all non-essential services and travel are shut down and people are locked inside their home as COVID-19 cases rise in areas near Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Syracuse University student Amber McElrath told us how the pandemic unfolded in Philadelphia.
When I first came home for spring break, I came home on the Thursday before our spring break started, and people were still going out and about. The next week, everything just kind of completely changed. So all of the restaurants shut down. They only had takeout now. People aren't allowed. All of the parks are shut down. You really can't go anywhere. So you're only allowed to leave your house if you're an essential service or if you're going to the grocery store.
Amber's family is taking the social distancing seriously because the pandemic could hit close to home.
I haven't really left my house. Part of that is because my brother does have Crohn's disease, so he is immunocompromised. So we're really trying to make sure that we're being safe for his sake and for our own sake.
She also explained how local grocery stores have been dealing with social distancing policies. Grocery stores have been packed with families trying to get all the food and supplies they need for the upcoming weeks.
We go to Wegmans, so they're pretty good at restocking everything, but when you're purchasing, you have to stay 6 feet behind the register, and then the lady will move back from the register, and then you'll go and pay. Like, I don't feel like it isn't clean, but it is hard because so many people are going at the same time, especially because we can only really go on Sundays, so it's hard to maintain the proper social distancing.
As a Newhouse student at Syracuse, she finds it difficult to learn in her production and reporting classes online. Some professors are making students interview their own families for their reporting classes.
A lot of my classes are hands-on. I'm in the television reporting class, so I have to interview my family, or basically only my family, because no one is allowed to come in and out of my house. I'm also in a web design class, and it's really hard because we do a lot of labs where we're supposed to follow along with his instruction, but it's hard to do that when you're on Zoom because you have to keep going back and forth between the screen where he's trying to show you and then your own screen where you're doing your own coding.
However, the pandemic is allowing Amber and her family to spend more time together and take for granted the people you always have around during these difficult times.
For me personally, it's put a lot of perspective on spending time with my family, because I think before I kind of took them for granted, and now we just have a constant fear about my younger brother, because if he did get COVID-19, he could be seriously sick and potentially it could be fatal for him. you shouldn't be, taking people for granted in your life, especially when things change so quickly.
Now, in the Midwest, Illinois is seeing some of the worst of it. There's over 11,000 cases with nearly 300 deaths. All Illinois counties have coronavirus cases. The hardest hit is Cook County, Chicago. The state is basically shut down. Governor Pritzker gave a shelter-in-place order on March 20th, and all non-essential workers are meant to stay home. Experts worry that Chicago will become the nation's next crisis point. Architecture student Karen Chow lives in Chicago. She says she's only just realizing how serious COVID-19 is.
I think I only realized the severity of like all the travel when I got back home. And then my parents were like, this could really affect us. Like, we're older.
Karen was studying in New York City this semester. She felt her program was behind in getting any information about coronavirus from the university.
And it just felt like we were on the tail end of everyone's priorities, especially from doing the study abroad program.
When Karen was in New York City, she says she experienced a few racist incidents because of the coronavirus.
Like, she looked at me, she pulled up her scarf, and then she ran away to the next cart.
Back in Chicago, all of the parks, trails, and most other public spaces are closed and empty. Right now, Karen is just focusing on staying home and self-isolating from her parents.
They closed down all the parks like a couple of days ago, and everyone got that warning on their phone. I've been home, so like I have no interaction with the outside. I haven't talked to anyone. And the stay at home was installed, which I agree is a good thing. And I don't think that April 7th, I think, is going to be long enough for all of this. But I don't even know what people are going to say when that does happen.
California has over 15,000 confirmed cases and nearly 400 deaths. The state's relative success with containing the spread when compared to New York may be because action was taken earlier on. The governor ordered a statewide lockdown on March 19th. Before that, the mayor of Los Angeles issued a lockdown order for the city. CitrusTV's Spencer Quiskin lives in Laguna Beach, just an hour outside of LA. He says much of day-to-day life in his area has come to a halt.
We have a really strong lockdown program that's sort of going on here. All the restaurants are closed. A lot of businesses are just shut. If you can't go out anywhere, basically.
Students that have returned to California or other Western regions face some unique issues. With SU classes now online, most students still have to adhere to a class schedule based in Eastern Standard Time, which Spencer says can be a headache for those on the other side of the country, 3 hours behind.
Have to abide by the East Coast time schedule. There's like more assignments that you have to do. There's more things you have to like focus on, and you got to sort of balance all these classes, which some of them are now like, oh, they're at the same time. So there's that. And then you got to sort of fit everything into your schedule.
The distance also makes the prospect of moving from campus housing difficult. When Spencer left for spring break, he took just one bag with him. He's unsure of when he'll be able to make the long trip back to Syracuse to move his things from his dorm room in Lawrence.
I'm sitting here on the West Coast. I'm like, do I book a flight? Do I trust some other people to move my stuff with like breakable things? I didn't take everything with me, and there's no way I could have taken everything with me like for spring break. So definitely my next couple of months is going to be trying to figure out how to get all that stuff back or put it into storage for next year.